And this bus is called wisdom.
Yes.
And you've got all these different emotions in this one bus, which is your anger, which is your frustration, your pain, your grief, whatever it is that you are going through at the moment. We cannot run away, Zaba, from the fact that, people go through a lot of things. We go through a lot of things, even as spiritual leaders, because life is that way. Life is just a journey that we are going through, and we go through difficulties. Sometimes we go through rejection, we go through pain, we go through a lot of things. But what we are preaching today, or what we are talking about today, is to say, have control of your emotions and don't let your emotions control you. Always be the wiser person, because you can use your mind. Our psychology is not like, animals. You always research about animals and stuff. Animals cannot think. I mean, they do things because they react to certain activities around them. When you attack a snake will react to the fear that it has, and then it will attack you. But as humans, we have to use emotional intelligence so that we can sift through and be able to say, you know what, I'm going through pain right now, and for me to be amongst people, it will be detrimental, because I'm going to end up saying things that I don't want to say. Let me just retract into my little corner until I am fine enough to go back again and socialize with other people. Emotional intelligence will say to you, you know what, deal with your issues at home. You might be having marital issues, but emotional intelligence says that be the bigger person, be wise, don't come with your emotions to work and then make these people that you are working with to suffer because of what you are going through. It says that, you know what, you have to think, because it actually borders around saying what you feel right now and what is reality.
Yes.
What is reality, or what is real, and what you feel right now. We must always have that to say, okay, what is it that I'm feeling right now?
Yes.
And what is real? And we must always choose for the real. But it's sometimes very difficult, Zaba, because what is real scares us as people. And to face those things scares us as people. So we'll rather sit in our little bubble and just sit and wallow in what we feel at that present moment.
So, Pastor, does it become then dangerous in terms of when you're saying picking between the reality and your emotions? Because I'd rather put myself on the platform and be personal. I believe I am a pragmatic person. I know what needs to be done, but I'm also a very emotional person. And usually in very sensitive situations, it's hard because that part of me emotionally is fighting. Let's take a normal example. We are friends and you actually do hurt my feelings, and I feel like you were in the wrong. If I look at it systematically, you were wrong, but I know you're sensitive, so I'm like, I don't want to hurt her feelings. I need to shy away. I need to put it under the cover. Does it become dangerous when you have to start picking between those emotions and then just the reality that you talk about?
Emotional intelligence, Zaba, does not really say that you do not face issues that are going on in your life, such as maybe a friend that has gone overboard. And as you were talking earlier on about issues of boundaries and so forth, emotional intelligence does not say that you do not respond to those issues, but emotional intelligence says that you do not react to those issues, because reaction and responding is two different things. Okay. Reacting might be because your friend is with you at this current moment, and then your friend will say, no, Zaba, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and really it will make you angry because it sounds insensitive and it's not right. But then emotional intelligence will say, rather than to attack it at that present moment, rather wait for your anger to subside. Then you respond to say, you know what, my friend, yesterday you really hurt me when you said 1, 2, 3, because the other issues of emotional intelligence, as I said before, is to also understand what another person is going through and another person is doing, and their character as well, and their emotions. So because you understand that once you attack this issue right now, it will cause more havoc and it will cause more harm than good. I would rather wait for it to subside. Then I'm in my senses, and then I go back to say, you know what, my friend, I didn't like what you said yesterday. You must try and be more sensitive to other people, and try and talk in a better manner. And that way she is more susceptible to she's more easier to listen She can listen more than at the first time when you reacted after what she did.
I
So
like
that's what we're saying that.
Yeah,
Yes,
I like
yes,
that.
Sarah.
I love how you clarified that, because it literally almost was confusing to think that you might have to choose emotion over reality. But I love how you clarified to say, no, it's your timing as well, your environment that you're in, and like you said, your reaction towards a particular situation as well. But I want to now highlight in terms of then general conflicts, in a sense, dealing with other people's emotional intelligence, like you're saying, because if we're seeing how self-awareness, self-management is very crucial to any situation, how do we counter other people's emotional intelligence if they themselves are either not educated about emotional intelligence, they're unaware of their own emotions and how they respond and react? Is it just now very important to be responsible for you to always be the person who has to ensure that it doesn't get out of hand? Because I'm thinking about that and I'm like, that can be emotionally daunting. I always have to now consider the fact that I must walk around past the Shelly. She doesn't ever want to at least consider sometimes the fact that maybe it's her, or she must acknowledge herself and her own emotions outside of us. How do we get to a place of those kind of scenarios and conflicts if other people's emotional intelligence can be a problem?
Let me start here, Zaba, to what you said before, to say that sometimes it sounds like a derogatory word to say that, you need to be emotionally intelligent. But I think maybe why it came about was the fact that, sometimes or most of the time, we are not heard with sometimes what we go through, but we are heard because of how people or other people react to what they feel at that present moment. So I think maybe from what you are saying, the best person to protect, I want to protect myself at all times. And yes, I might not teach the person what is emotional intelligence. And if they do not have any knowledge of it, you cannot teach a person then maybe it would be a process that you guys have to go through, depending as well on the type of relationship that you guys have. Because if we are close, then I'll be able to say, you know what, my friend, or do you know what, my colleague or my husband or whatever it is, this is how you handle your emotions better, so that we don't tiptoe around you. Because someone can say that, you know what, this emotional intelligence is making us not to respond quickly, and it's making us to tiptoe around other people and be sensitive on their behalf and all of that. But you know what, I value myself so much more. I value my heart and my peace so much more. That's why I said in the beginning that, you know what, you need to know yourself. You need to know what are the things that triggers your emotions as well. You need to know what sets you alight and what burns your fire, so that you avoid sometimes some of those situations before they even come to you. So the most, or the priority should be yourself and to protect yourself. If that person is not aware of how or what emotional intelligence is, then okay, they can react however they react, but be the better person, act wisely. If we say that there's a bus, and then in this bus there's a whole lot of emotions, but this bus is called wisdom. Whatever you do, you have to control your emotions and subject them under wisdom, so that when you respond, or when you get the time to come back, you come back with wisdom and in a wise manner that will teach even the other person. But the first priority is you, Zaba, and your heart and your peace. I think that's what you have to take care of, even when in conflicts.
Okay, Pastor Shelley, you know I like to tread into sensitive, dangerous places because I feel like we avoided hoping that someone else will handle it. I want to counter in partnerships now, whether it is, like you said, friendships or husband and wife, or even in the workspace. What I've been picking up is that, like you said, sometimes we just pick things up along the way. You probably didn't even realize you might have been a sensitive person until another scenario where someone showed or highlighted to you. What happens in a case where I'm married and I'm seeing things now that I'm like, I know you said it. You're like, you don't get into situations if you can see red flags. But if you're in a situation and now I'm thinking to myself, I don't think this person's emotionally, ready or is understanding where I'm coming from as a person, what process now can I embark on when I come to you and say, I don't know what to do, hey, like it's too much. I'm trying. I don't know what to try. How in general with relationships does, let me rather say permanent relationships, is emotional intelligence so vital now?
Yeah, that is a difficult one, Zaba, because it takes two people to be in a relationship.
Yes.
And because it takes two people to be in a relationship, if you have noticed, we have always said this last week and the other week as well, to say that preparedness before you enter into that relationship is very, very vital. Because when you enter a certain relationship, having emotional intelligence, you are able to even recognize those things that your feelings would not have recognized. Because the difference in emotional intelligence is to separate what you feel and what reality is. You know, what you feel right now, you might feel love and you might feel all this dizziness and butterflies in your stomach and nervousness and all of these things that you feel when you enter or when you start the first phases of a relationship.
Yes.
But then you cannot really fade or take away the reality. And what reality would this be? You need to be honest with yourself. Number one, this person is coming with baggage. This person is having all these red flags. You need to have a reality check. You know, we always get through to our magazine. There was one magazine that I used to like when I was young, still in my early marriages, where they will have all these quizzes at the end, and where you have to calculate at the end to say, okay, I've got 17 out of 30 or 15. Then they will tell you that, you know what, the relationship that you are getting into actually won't stand a chance. So you would need to do that before you even enter into this relationship of a permanent nature, to say that because I am emotionally intelligent, then I have to be the better person to sit down with all these oranges in a basket and to say, what is it that I feel and what is real? And if what is real goes along with what I feel, and if these things are gelling together, then I can get into marriage. You know, sometimes we get into marriage and maybe the other partner or permanent relationship, whatever it is, we get into it, maybe our partners are not emotionally intelligent. But as we go forward, as I said before, that it depends on the relationship that you have. It can be something that you will practice as time goes on. Sometimes we do have it as part of our premarital counseling or counseling sessions. We do have this as a subject to say, you know what, you need to be emotional intelligence because most of the problems that have happened was that sometimes we left these issues and we didn't attack them before, and when it came to the crunch, then a person is full of rage and does not know how to respond to rage, and then they just react, and then it's really vital for everyone to know within that relationship what is it that they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, hey, you know, I'll be honest, I totally follow what you're saying. I'm just thinking about those where we were talking about it last week. You're in this situation. You're already married. You have 3 kids. You're financially and legally tied up. You made a mess, guys, because we humans, we I don't want to say we make a mistake through marriage, but we make premature decisions and then we start at the back of our minds. Because something I've picked up a lot is that certain relationships where females have with their mothers, sometimes their mothers aren't direct and honest about like what you're talking about, being imperative of things such as emotional intelligence before you even have a relationship. And I'm not just saying considering marriage, but even a dating process where you find yourself dating people and you're wondering what is the issue. It's not working out, and then instead you hear, especially from African culture, just don't marry someone who's like a dreamer, and then you're trying to interpret like what are they trying to say, you know, or don't bring someone home in this caliber or in that group and setting as well. Do you think it's also vital in terms of relationships that people have with their parents or people who they cared for through their upbringing? Does that also have a huge effect through your upbringing in your household, how your emotional intelligence can be affected?
Yes, it is, and that goes to show why now other countries are having this as part of their curriculum at an early age, to say that this may not be such a discussion that is actually tackled in the home front. And then society has to come in that space. And it is also as well discussed in spiritual platforms. As myself, a spiritual leader, we do even discuss such issues, because the Bible will also have other characters that, were driven by emotions and so forth. So it is quite important. We cannot go back maybe to right the wrongs from our generation.
Yes.
But what you can do from starting now in your own generation, you can be able to influence in a good manner and be able to teach these things at an early age, because before it gets to the colleagues, before it gets to battles in the marriages, before it gets to battles in relationships, you start even with simple things as bullying at school with your kids, because those are also emotions, and they are driven by emotions and so forth. And because they do not know how to identify that, I'm undergoing grief at the moment, and because I'm undergoing grief, I have no control over this emotion, and it's making me to push people away from me and push them in a very bad way, because I cause enemies along the way. And the problem is not with me, but it's the emotions that I'm going through at that present time. So it also calls for a whole society to stand up and really hold each other's hands. Teachers have also a role to play from the early age, and to grow up and teach these young ones. So from that stage, you face your bullying. From the time that you get to a workspace, you start now working, you have to deal with people who are coming from their houses or wherever they come from, their backgrounds and so forth. They also have different emotions, and they do not know how to control them. And you have to be the better person now. You have to be wise and be able to handle your own emotions in a wise way, so that ultimately Shirley doesn't get hurt along the way. Because you know what? There are a lot of cases where it's not about me, but it's about the person who tried to hurt me, and I reacted because of that. So most of the time, it's what we go through and what the other person goes through, and you have to guard what you go through, and you have to guard as well what the other person is inflicting on you. So it's very, very important, and we cannot stress it enough. And I think it hasn't been also a topic that has been tackled so much, because maybe people feel that you are insulting other people and so forth. And it's not that. It's actually taking care of yourself, because number one, you would have to identify what you are going through at the moment as Shirley. What am I going through right now? And I'll say, you know what, I'm going through anger because of what my parents have done to me, or what my husband has done to me, or so forth. And number two, out of 5, how can you scale that emotion that you are going through? And then you can say, no, it's 4 out of 5. And then already you know that when you say it's 4 out of 5, you must run for cover, because you can actually burst at any time. You are a walking time bomb. And then number 3, find a way of detonating, find a way of dealing with it. Some others, they run. Scientifically, medically, it has been proven that, it relaxes the mind, it relaxes you, and it sets your emotions into par. So find a way of dealing with the stresses of life, because they are everywhere. There's pressure, there's pain. Everyone is going through certain something, and it can affect your mental health, it can affect your emotions and so forth. So find a way as a person to deal with what you are going through, rather than to make even the other people to suffer, those people that are next to you. And then no one can be devoid of emotions, Zaba. That's the other issue, is to know that you cannot separate yourself from emotions. Emotions are there, but you know what? You will have to control them. And as you do this, and as you practice this, people will see, people will learn from you. People will know that, you know what? We like the way that Zaba, handles issues, even within her relationships, even within her social life, even within her colleagues that she works with. And then, it's going to be a practice that is going to be retaliated around, and then ultimately we learn something from it.
It's I don't even know, my brain's in 5 areas, but it's just the idea that you just highlighted, that this conversation just doesn't happen enough, and that now when you're speaking, it's even the fact that we're tracing it back as far as our adolescent years, and something as simple as bullying, where we find ourselves constantly talking about maybe the outcome of what has happened, but not going back to the foundation of it was the fact that there was poor emotional intelligence being taught or being administered at the time. And so I really want to then bring in this idea or concept of then boundaries and tying it in with honesty. It's two questions. I don't know if we can try break it down. I want to know, is it essential in terms of having boundaries, knowing boundaries, being able to articulate your boundaries, but also the level of honesty? Is there too much that you can put out there sometimes? Because I think, as you said, there is a fear of people judging you, whether they want to regard you as not intellectually smart or someone who's just incapable. But then that idea or concept of the fact that you're also fearful of saying that, okay, if I tell Pastor Shelley that I'm oversensitive, she's probably going to get irritated with me and she won't want me around her kind of space. But at the same time, it is a boundary so that she can know that I'm someone she needs to be more cautious with as well. So I don't know if it's a question or an understanding, but I want to touch on boundaries and level of honesty, because I even want to tie in the fact that, something people disregard easily is something like pillow talk in relationships or marriage, where sensitive information gets crossed over in a space that has too many emotions. And then, like you said, in the reality or the real world, you walk out the door and then you said you respond or react badly, then that kind of information gets thrown out there. So is there a space of honesty or being open that's too much sometimes with emotional intelligence? Should we think about that more often as well?
Yeah, that's a mouthful, but I'll try and tackle it in this manner to say we don't want to socially restrict people, Zaba, and we want to avoid that in our engagement as well, to say, because we don't want to have a sense where we're saying that people are socially restricted now. Yes. I must be cautious when I'm addressing my friend or when I'm addressing my husband and so forth, because now I've put for myself boundaries and so forth. But I want to start with the issues of being honest. It's what we have touched on a bit, to say that be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Before we can start to say we are including other people within your space or within your life. And then there are boundaries in terms of having safe and unsafe platforms where we speak, but you can never be scared to approach a person for assistance, because that can only make Zaba to be better. Okay. It does not make Zaba to be a failure. Okay. But it will make you a better person tomorrow, because emotional intelligence is linked with decision making in life. Yes. And you don't want to wake up tomorrow and find out that you've made very bad decisions in your life because you've just created these walls around you where no one could permeate or penetrate and be able to assist you as a person. You must be aware of who you are and have boundaries in life, yes, but you must not have those boundaries where people will even be afraid to assist you as a person and be able to say, you know what, your temper is going to make you fail in life if you don't tackle it now. You must have that room open so that people can come and assist you in that. There is a space where you talk with your partner, and where you will say maybe your grievances, maybe that we call your pillow talk, where you will say, you know what, I feel that maybe our relationship would be better if we handled some other matters this way and that way. And there are some cases where what you have spoken as well before, to say that timing is very important. As much as I'm saying my grievances, as much as we are having those pillow talks, but at the same time, I must not bombard, all these issues right there and there. Emotional intelligence speaks about timing, speaks about putting your conversations and your talk in a sandwich manner. It's properly, or it's orderly done. It's your first layer and your second layer and your third layer. And if you have tackled the temper today, tomorrow maybe, or you let the day pass and the other day pass, and then you will tackle another issue as well that is a problem in terms of handling emotions within your relationship.
Yes.
So emotional intelligence has a lot of facets to it, which is timing, which is honesty, which is, having an eye to identify issues, which is calming down and not responding or reacting, but responding. So it has a lot of layers to it. And at the time you get to it and you get to understand it, that's when you'll be able to build yourself boundaries, but not boundaries that will make you to be in a destructive space, but boundaries to make you to be in a constructive space where you can grow as a person.
I think I have the answer, Pastor Shelley. I think the reason we don't have this conversation, because it sounds like a part-time job.
It's true.
It feels like
true. It's a lot of work.
So much work. And I think that it comes now for me where I'm reflecting. I'm like, if I put in all this effort and I don't get maybe a positive response that I get, am I going to be okay? You know what? It's fine. Let me let it go. And maybe that's the space where this dangerous area started to come, where we don't learn to react, positively, like you said. Because you're explaining it to me and it makes sense. But deep down inside, I'm like, no, it's okay. It's too much. But if I'm someone and I really I want to fix this, I want to work through this, I'm listening to you now and I realize, damn, I have a lot of work to do. I have been affected in so many areas of my life and I probably didn't respond well. Do I just knock at your door and say, okay, let's do this? Or is there certain patterns that people need to first recognize, or options they need to consider to start their emotional intelligence journey of healing and getting to that space?
Okay, just at our time, it's restraining the talks, but then let us not be over ambitious. That's why then it feels like a job and it seems like a job. We do it step by step, one day at a time. Yes. We recognize that, sometimes I have a temper and I need to deal with it. And this is how I deal with it. And maybe if you would need to go and knock in that person's door to say, I did not speak as I should have, then so be it. But it's one step at a time. We don't want to make it to be impractical, because it's something that needs to be done at the end of the day, so that we build our societies. And the more we are mentally stable, we are healthy psychologically, and are able to administer control over our emotions, I think we'll be at a better space where we can have healthy relationships as well, and where we can have a very healthy society, a society of people who understand each other and who can be able to coexist with each other. So you take it one day at a time. Don't be too much. You can't be going around and then knocking down and say, that other year I spoke badly about you, or I reacted badly, and then I want to apologize. Just take it one step at a time. You are now being aware. You are made aware of something that you needed to recognize and identify in your life, and then you start with one step. If I'm happy, what is it that I do? Do I go inside my house now and I take all my clothes and I give it to my friends? Then thereafter I feel guilty that I've given them my favorite sneakers and I won't get them back because I've given them. When I'm sad, what is it that I do? Do I kick all people from my side, even those that really want to help you because they feel empathy towards, or they sympathize with you towards the situation that you're going through? Yes. When I'm angry, what sort of anger do I show? Maybe it's wrath, maybe it's resentment, maybe it's the rage where you get your road rages and stuff. How do I react when I'm angry? And you start with those small things, and then you start now to recognize the pattern that where I am currently, I'm at a good space, and if I can manage my emotions now, I'll be fine. But no, I recognize that no, you know what? I went into my partner's house because we broke up, and then I took all his clothes and I tore them apart. It means that I've got a serious problem, and I need to deal with it before it controls me, and it leads me to places where I don't want to go as a person. So you sit down, you have a meeting with yourself. I sit before my mirror and I talk to myself, and I say, Shirley, you know what? You are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if you don't change, you are going to have a serious problem. And that's where we start, and I feel that that's where we start, rather than to over exaggerate some of the issues.
Wow, that is absolutely brilliant, Pastor Shirley. I think that is just the starting point of this conversation being dealt with in a general sense, and it definitely needs to continue and be broken down. So I want to wrap things up, and I want to say thank you so much. And is it fair to say that, guys, one step at a time is all we need in this world?
Yes. It's all we need. And then we must remember again, Zaba, as we end, to say our emotions needs to be as educated as our minds. So we need to be educated even in how we control our emotions, so that we don't end up in danger and endangering the lives of those we say we love.
I can't even respond to that. I can only say thank you so much, Pastor Shirley. Of course, it's such a blessing, such an honor for you to spend and share your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you on behalf of myself, my team, and my listeners. Have a blessed weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, man, we just wrapping things up here, and that brings us to the end of the morning elevation. Live, love, but wherever you do, be safe with your emotions. I'm out.
Real news in the know.
It's 1 o'clock. A very good afternoon, and these are top stories this hour. Britain's government have earlier today warned it could be reimposing a national lockdown across England to counter the COVID-19 pandemic, noting rates of hospitalizations are doubling every 8 days.